Hi, I'm Brian Lord, president of Premier Speakers Bureau. Every Friday through the summer, we're doing free virtual Fridays to provide great free content to you through this unique time and also help you learn more about great speakers and virtual events. This week, we're excited to have leadership catalyst and Disney veteran Simon T. Bailey. Simon is the leader of the Spark movement, whose purpose is to ignite sustainable transformation in people, systems, and nations. His Goalcast video, released on Facebook, has over 87 million views worldwide. It's also rumored that Simon is the best dressed man on the speaker circuit. Simon joined us today for a Q&A. So without further ado, let's get started. So first one, are there disciplines you recommend to be shift ready?
Yes, three disciplines. I think the first one is to do our personal work. And when I say our personal work, specifically, how am I doing in the midst of change? And that can simply just start with meditating, exercising, dieting, making sure you're getting proper sleep, the self-discipline. Then I would say the next discipline is to think about your team and specifically how are they doing? Do they have everything they need? Are they in an environment that is psychologically safe? Is there connectivity? How's the relationships on the team? Do people have everything they need to be successful? And then the other discipline is to really think about our customers in a fresh new way, and not so much the customer transaction, but the customer journey. And are we disciplining ourselves to really look at the journey of how customers interact with us, not just the transaction of closing a deal?
Mm-hmm. How do you deal, I guess this is kind of goes in with that, how do you deal with the stressful time we're in?
Yeah. So when we think about the stressful time with COVID-19, the one thing that I'm inviting organizations to really think about is to acknowledge the emotion, allowing individuals to have room, virtual town halls, one-on-ones. Obviously, there are a lot of Zoom cocktail times that teams are doing at the end of the week. That time is important because you're acknowledging the emotion that we've just gone through, really an emotional tsunami, okay? I think the next thing is activate kindness. And activating kindness is that, and I'm a little old school, it's the handwritten note. It's the maybe the video message. It's letting people know that they are valued and that you care about them. And then probably the third thing is to think about balancing empathy with authenticity. So we're empathetic, we walk a mile in people's shoes, we understand where everyone is right now, but the authenticity is, ladies and gentlemen, we still have a business to run. And how do we ensure in being empathetic and authentic that some people, you don't tell people what's going on, they make a story. So it's important to ensure that we're acknowledging where people are and being truthful about the times we're in.
All right, this next question is from Bruce Bortree. Hey, Bruce. How do you impact corporate culture if it doesn't reflect, if sometimes those values aren't always reflected?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Bruce. What I would say, Bruce, and everyone that's listening, what I've discovered is systemic change in any corporate culture generally starts with an executive champion. So are there executive champions who embrace and see where things need to go, and they can influence the CEO or anyone in the C-suite to say, here's what's in it for you. CEOs will never say that it's about them, but it is, because most CEOs right now, their jobs are shifting every 18 to 24 months. So find those executive champions that can really begin and whisper in their ear, and that's where change starts. But then the flip side to that, it also starts from the bottom up. So no CEO wants to be called out on Glassdoor.com. So sometimes what I encourage organizations to do is to find those individuals throughout the organization bottom up and let them start to make incremental changes things that make a difference. And then all of a sudden you create this surround sound and they're like, what just happened? And it was all strategic all along.
All right, next one. I'm scared to say love to an associate. Help me with that.
Yeah, so great. I get this question all the time. So imagine I say this to 400 CEOs and executives. You got to tell people you love them. All right, let me say it to you a different way. I care and I value who you are. That's a different way that you can say, because obviously HR might raise an eyebrow. So, but here's the thing. If you don't love them, you can't lead them. So people have got to know that they matter, but I value, I care, I appreciate.
All right, next one here. How do you act like a leader when you're not officially a leader?
Do the things that others won't do. Ask your boss, what can I take off your plate? How can I make your job easier? Sign up, raise your hand, be involved in projects that are the ugly babies that nobody wants to take on. You take them on. That's how you lead without a title. That's how I got promoted at Disney. I took on what others wouldn't take on. And because of that, great things happened during the 7 years I was at the Mouse House.
All right. Are there event shifts you recommend as we consider as we meet virtually more often?
Yeah, I think we have to be mindful that there are some people who they don't want to leave their house. They don't want to get on a plane. So meetings will have to be that hybrid meeting, both, physical distancing, and I use the words physical distancing intentionally instead of social distancing. And then those who will experience it online and being able to almost provide a robust experience for those who are doing the online meetings. So obviously Zoom, you can go into virtual meeting rooms on the Zoom platform, but maybe having a coach in that virtual meeting room that engages individuals. So though they are not physically with their colleagues or at a meeting, they're still getting the benefit of meeting.
You talk about thinking like a CEO. What are some ways people can take control of their careers?
Number one, realize that it's not the HR department's responsibility to plan your career. So think about your career as a portfolio. So if you invested in stocks, right? What's your brilliance? What's that worth in the organization? Your insight, your potential, your genius, your experience. And then what are your relationships? Because relationships are the currency of the future. People get promoted based on relationships, not because they have the technical ability to be in the role. And then look at time. So if I stay in this organization a year from now, 5 years from now, how will you grow in that organization? Don't wait for them to tap you on the shoulder and promote you. You say, how do I become a CrossFit thinker? And a CrossFit thinker, so I'm a member of Orange Theory, and you go to Orange Theory and you spend 20 minutes on treadmill, 20 minutes on rowing, 20 minutes on the floor, and you rotate during that entire hour. Every person who takes charge of their corporate career must have CrossFit thinking. That means I have been hired to do X, but how I stay valuable to the organization is I understand Y and Z. Go and spend time in another department where you're not comfortable so that you can learn that process. And what you do is you create this trifecta approach to your career. So you understand what needs to happen at 30,000 feet, but you can land the plane at 500 feet and execute. And people say, how do you know what you know? They're like, what? It's because you've kept your ear to the ground and you've engaged and you have taken charge of your portfolio to grow your value over time. That's how you keep your name off of the reduction in force list, because they can't live without you. You've made yourself, as Seth Godin would say, indispensable.
And by the way, I agree with all that. And also, as soon as you said CrossFit, our Sean Hanks, our premier CEO, just perked up. Really, anytime somebody says CrossFit, he's got to get into it. How can you better relate to customers when you are not physically able to be around them?
Wow. So it's so interesting. So I'm doing the virtual interviews with SAP. And one of the things they talked about that was just so insightful in this whole digital transformation is paying attention to the habits that customers, when they interact with you, capturing that information, understanding it to nauseam, and then looking at your strategy of how you're going to engage them in the way they want to be engaged. So for instance, why does billing or delivery have to be complicated? How do you remove the friction from that experience and make it within just one or two clicks, where it's very easy, it's very seamless? So what is it that we know about the customers? And then how do we take the best learning and tell the team, here's why we're doing it, here's the benefit. So now everyone is always educated to say, we got to remove the friction. We have to make things happen quicker, faster, if we're going to retain this customer and if they become our unofficial marketing department.
All right, and so for those on, make sure to get your questions in. We can do maybe one or two more here within the time. And so what are some ways that people can be successful in dealing with adversity?
So, wow. First of all, listen. Secondly, learn. Third, let go of your bias or your or whatever has happened. And when I say let go of it, sometimes when adversity comes, we get caught up in the story of adversity instead of saying, how do I begin to have the fortitude, which is courage in adversity, to make the tough decision? So it's listening, it's learning, and letting go.
All right, and last question. This is from Brian Palmer. Where did you get that sweet tie?
Well, first of all, Brian, congratulations on 40 years, sir. Thank you. June 1st, 1980. It was a good day. And there's a little tie store in Highland Park Village called Robert Talbert. It's a men's store, and I think they have one in Nashville as well. But best, great clothes, Robert Talbert.
All right, great. Well, Simon, thank you so much for coming on and being a part of Free Virtual Fridays. And then for everybody else tuning in here next week for Premier's Free Virtual Friday, the founder and CEO of FutureThink, Lisa Bodell, will present on Stop Meeting and Start Collaborating. You can actually go to premierspeakers.com/free right now to register. Thanks again to everyone for joining us for this Free Virtual Friday presentation. And Simon, thanks for sharing a great message and a sweet tie.